Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. And as you can see, I'm joined by a very special guest, none other than Adam from What the Gym.
What's up, everybody?
How you keep,
Hello.
how you keeping, Adam?
I'm doing great, Richard. I'm glad to be back to be on your channel.
Great
So,
stuff.
you've been appearing on my live streams a few times.
That's right. Yeah.
In the chat. Yeah, it's great to finally do a video with you.
Yep, I totally agree, and it's great to have you on the channel as well. So what we're decided to do, there was a bit of to and fro in here because we weren't too sure what we were going to do. And we've came up with the idea of doing 5 of our favorite Kinks songs and then 5 of our different Doors songs. And then at the end of the video, saying which band we actually prefer. So how we'll go through this is we'll start with the Kinks. And first of all, I'll ask Adam, how long have you been into the Kinks? You're a young fella, so obviously you haven't known them that long. So how extensive are you into their catalog, or how did you get introduced to them?
Well, I've been listening to the music for about a year.
Hmm.
I've got one of their compilation albums, which is behind me here.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite compilation albums, and I got into them because of the vinyl community, and also because my dad's quite into the Kinks as well. And I already knew a few of their songs. I knew All Day and All the Night. You really got me. I also knew Lola as well.
Hmm.
So I knew some of their biggest hits.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I've really recently been getting into them, and they're definitely one of my favorite bands of
oh,
of, of all time. Definitely.
yeah. Well, I actually got into them around the late 1970s. I'm that old, yes. When my brother bought a compilation, and then they were actually the first band I saw live. I saw them live in 1981 when I was 15 years old. And since that, I've managed to get
Wow.
all the albums. So I know quite a bit about the Kinks. I'm not going to say everything is brilliant because it's not. The 1960s, especially 66 to about 71, is their peak period. But there's certain songs throughout the whole of their career that are well worth investigating. So what we'll do is we'll start here now, and if you give me your number 5, I'll give you my number 5, and then so forth, you 4, me 4, and then we'll get on to the Doors. So what's your number 5 choice?
Well, my number five is from the album "The Kinks of the Village Preservation Green Preservation Society," and it's a really long title, that one. It came out in 1968, and my favorite song from that album. It's my fifth favorite Kinks song, and it's "Days."
Yeah,
"Days" is my favorite song from that album.
Dave.
It's got great acoustic guitar playing in that song, and it's got great vocals by Ray Davies, of course, and it's got amazing orchestration in its song. It's quite subtle, but I think it goes well with the song. And it's got a very catchy and very melodic chorus, one of their better choruses, I would say, and it's got some of the best Kinks lyrics here as well. It's just an all round amazing song, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I also like the Kirsty MacColl version of it as well. She had a hit single with it in the late 80s, which is beautiful. It's a fantastic song. It really is. Days actually was on, it wasn't on the British version of Village Green. I think it was on the American version. So I think there was maybe
Right.
a difference, but still, it gets on all the as a bonus cut on all issues of the CD now. So more or less say that Days was on Village Green. Well, my number 5, I'm doing this slightly differently. I'm going to go for only 70s and 80s material. I'm not going to touch the 60s because I know
All
you're going
right.
to represent that well. And this was a single in 1983, and it is Don't Forget to Dance. Now, this actually got to number 58 over here, and it just scraped the top 30 in the US. It was the follow-up to the very famous Come Dancing. I personally prefer this, and it is a ballad. And it's actually quite a sad ballad because it's about a woman who is obviously getting older, but she's still going out and partying and going to clubs and so forth. All the friends that she had have either been or married or have children and don't go out anymore. So she sees that whenever she is out, the people in those clubs are getting younger and younger and younger obviously she's getting older, and it is quite a sad song. It's beautifully performed, and the backing vocals are absolutely magnificent. And I think it's one of his best tracks of the 1980s. So that's my number 5. Don't forget to dance.
Very great choice. But I'll move on to my number 4, which is from the Lola versus Power Man and the Money Go Round Part 1 album from 1970. And it's the song Lola.
Yeah,
Lola's
fantastic.
my favorite song from that album. It's got one of the best Kinks melodies here, and awesome acoustic guitar playing in this as well. Fantastic instrumentation, and I think the song tells a really great story as well. And I think Ray's voice goes quiet in some parts, quite loud in only a few seconds, and I find that really really cool. It's one of the first King songs I knew, and I actually knew the Weird Al version first. I knew his parody of it, which was Yoda.
All right.
That's how I knew about the song.
All right. Did you know that they had to re-record that to take out the words Coca-Cola and replace it with Cherry Cola? So there's actually 2 versions of that. One
Oh,
with the
really?
which was the single, but the album still kept the Coca-Cola. So there you go.
I'm
So
I'm not sure what version I've heard the most. Then
it's probably the Coca-Cola one because it's still uh, the most popular, really. It's from the album, but the single itself, they had to change it to Cherry Cola. That's an excellent choice. I love it as well. Great album,
yeah.
that, by the way, is Lola and the Power Man. Well, my number 4 is from 1981, and this was the first single to come out after I saw them in concert. And this is Better Things. Now, this is absolutely magnificent. It's just a very, very joyful song. It's a song of optimism, wishing everyone better things. It's extremely accessible, extremely catchy. It features on their Give the People What They Want album, but it's not as heavy as some of the tracks on that album. And this itself, whenever Ray Davies recorded an album in 2010 called See My Friends, where he picked about 12 songs of his own and invited people to sing along with him
Oh,
as a
wow.
duet, Bruce Springsteen actually sang this along with Ray Davies. So he did. So, yeah, it got to number 46 in the UK, which was fantastic for the Kinks because they hadn't been in the charts since 1972 with Supersonic Rocket Ship. And as I say, this was the first one. It's a double pack, by the way. We got this at the time. And this is the first single that came out after I saw them live when I was 15. So that's my number 4.
I had no idea he sang a song with Bruce Springsteen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, as we're recording this tomorrow, I'm going to a Bruce Springsteen concert tribute.
Funny enough, my
Yep.
brother's going to see one next week. So he is.
Oh, really? It could be the same tribute, maybe.
I think it probably is. But no, I hope you enjoy the concert. I'm sure it'll be excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be really great. But my number 3 favorite Kinks songs from the Something Else album in 1967, and it's Waterloo Sunset. It's
Fantastic
got
song.
I think it's got the best Kinks backing vocals here, and I absolutely love the drumming on that track. And I think it's got brilliant acoustic and electric guitar playing. And it's got great lyrics. It tells an awesome story too. And I think it's a perfect song of the '60s, and it's one of my favorite songs of that period, in my opinion.
I think it's probably their best ever single. It is just unbelievably good. And it never got
Yeah,
to number 1. I think it only got to number 2. And even
unbelievable.
my hero David Bowie even covered it as well in 2003. And he does a decent version of it, but there's nothing that beats that 67 original single by the Kinks. That is an absolute excellent choice. Well, my number 3 is from 1979, and it's a song called Wish I Could Fly Like Superman, which is on the Low Budget album. Now, this was a number 41 hit in the US. It didn't chart here. Now, it is a rock song, but there is a disco feel to it. And don't let that put you off because it's not what you think whenever you think of disco, you think Saturday Night Fever and so forth. But there is a slight 1979 disco backing to this. but I just think it's a really, really good song. It's a Ray Davies song, but Dave Davies sings the vocals or the chorus of it, which I think he does brilliantly. And it's just a song about a bit of a wimp, and he wants to be Superman. He needs to put on weight. He needs to get muscles, and it's actually very witty. So that's my number three, and I think it's the highlight of this low budget album from 1979. So wish I could fly like Superman.
Very cool. But my number two is from the Everybody's in Showbiz album, came out in 1972, and it's the song Celluloid Heroes.
Ah, right. I can show. I didn't bring in the that album, but I can show you. I think I can show you this. Actually, this here. This is a Celluloid Heroes compilation, and
Ah,
obviously
awesome.
this is a compilation of the RCA years. I do have Everyone's in Showbiz, but I thought we'd bring this one in. Absolutely brilliant. But carry on.
Yeah,
What do you think of it?
I think it's a very long song, but I also think it's a very perfect song as well. I love all the instruments being used, and it's got beautiful piano playing, and it's a beautiful song overall. I think it's got my favorite Ray Davies lyrics probably in this song, and it's got my favorite Kinks bass playing as well. It's got a great tune to it. It's got a quite accordion in the song. I love that the inclusion of that instrument. It's one of my favorite usages of that instrument. When I first heard it, I thought it could be my favorite Kinks song, but no, for me, another one is.
Okay. Well, that's an absolute excellent choice. And he also recorded that for his 2010 See My Friends album. And this time he brought on John Bon Jovi and Richie
Oh yeah,
Sambora. So that was recorded with those two guys. Well, my number two is actually an LP track from 1977, and it's from the album Sleepwalker. And this is not my favorite Kinks album. I like it, but the first track of this is one of my all-time favorite Kinks songs, and it's called Life on the Road. And it's basically a song wanting to get away and then documenting all the experiences he has on the road. It starts off very, well, not slow, but very quiet with a piano, and then in comes the drums, the guitars, and so forth. And there's really great backing vocals on this. There's actually a really good keyboard on this as well. It's just a rocking good song, and it's the opener to the album, Life on the Road. Absolutely brilliant. Not to be confused with The Road, which was a song he wrote in 1988, although it's actually quite similar in sound, but nothing beats this version. That's Life on the Road from 1977. That's my number two.
well, I'll move on to my favorite Kinks song, and I think it's the one I've known the longest, and it's really got me from the Kinks 1964 album. It's it's got all my favorite guitar riffs, and it's a song that's very ahead of its time. When I found out it came out in 1964, I was just blown away. It sounded like a song that could always come out today,
Yeah.
and it would still be revolutionary. And it's got a tambourine in this song, and I think the tambourine is a really great inclusion. It's one of my favorite usages of that instrument, and it's got phenomenal electric guitar solo here, one of my favorites. And it's got one of my favorite vocals, probably not my favorite vocals, in fact, from Ray Davies. And the song builds up to something rocky, but I think it's one of the best rock songs of all time, and it's such an incredible song. In my opinion, it's my favorite Kinks song.
Yeah. Well, they say that You Really Got Me was like the birth of heavy metal. I think they stuck a knitting
Yeah,
needle or whatever into Dave's amp. I'm not too, or took a razor blade to it to get that guitar
yeah.
sound that nobody had ever heard before. It's a simple song, but it really, really is good, and that's an excellent choice. Well, my number one, and you've already had it, and it's Celluloid Heroes.
Oh wow.
Not a lot more I can say about that song because you said it all. I like the way he references all the old actors like Greta
Yeah,
Garbo, Valentino, Betty Davis, and especially the words about Marilyn Monroe, which are very, very touching. It's just a really good song, and he actually played this live whenever I saw him or saw them in Belfast back in 1981.
wow.
It's an absolutely fantastic song. So Celluloid Heroes is my number one. So yeah, I honestly didn't think you would have Celluloid Heroes. I didn't think you would have been aware of it. So I'm really pleased that you knew it. I'm actually very chuffed that you knew it. So
I definitely surprised you there.
you surprised me and very pleasantly surprised. So if we flip over and start on the Doors, um, when did you get into the Doors? How long have you known them for?
Well, I've only been getting to the Doors fairly recently. I've heard the self-titled Doors album. I've
Mhm.
also heard LA Woman, which is the first Doors album I heard. And I've also heard People Are Strange as
Right.
well.
Okay.
And I've also got the Best of the Doors, which is behind me here. And I think before I really got into the Doors, really song I really knew from them was Light My Fire. Other than that, I don't think I knew any of the Doors songs. But I'm glad that I definitely got into them because I've discovered some really, really great songs.
Yeah, I think they're very good. I've only recently got into them myself. I bought the CDs about 5 or 6 years ago, and they were very cheap. Played them once, never played them again. And then I started buying some of the vinyl, and I started playing it more. Now, I am not a Doors fanatic, and I'm not an expert on the Doors, so I have a feeling we will actually match on a couple of these.
Yeah, probably.
So, do you want to go with your number five?
Yeah, and but my number five is the song that I just mentioned a few moments ago, being Light My Fire. But it's mainly the single version I preferred. It's of course from the first Doors album that came out in 1967, and it's got incredible organ playing here. It's got Jim Morrison's incredible vocal. I just think that his vocals are incredible here and very iconic. It's got a very cool vibe to this song, and I think it's me probably because of the vocals and the instrumentation, and it's a perfect psychedelic song of the '60s,
Yeah.
and it's got fantastic electric guitar playing and drumming here. It's just an all round perfect Doors song.
Yeah, well, I'll come to that. My number five, however, I think is just an LP track, and it's from Morrison Motel, and it's a song called Land Ho. And the reason I like this is the very catchy keyboard on it. I think it's just great. It's great fun. There is a good guitar riff in here as well, but there's not a lot more I can say about this. I like Jim Morrison's vocals, but I can't take too much of Jim Morrison's vocals. So I can play a Doors album, but I will never want to play another one directly after it. So this is one of my favorite albums of theirs, and Land Ho, I think, is just very, very catchy, to be honest with you. It's the keyboards that I love, and that gets my number five.
Well, my number four is I'm still going to be talking about the Doors debut here, and it's the song "The Crystal Ship."
All right.
It's a song that's not many. Yeah, it's a song that I think is an underrated classic to me. It's got stunning piano playing throughout the song, and it's a beautiful slow ballad and one of my favorite ballads from the Doors. And it's got a lovely melody and it's a very melancholic song in my opinion. It's an amazing song for me.
I think it's very good as well. I actually have a version of that by Andrea Corr, which I really like. Um, but yeah, it's an excellent choice. I nearly picked that, but I decided against it. It just missed the top five. It would have got in the top 10. Well, my number four is from exactly the same album, and it is the track Break On Through, which I think was the single released over here. Again, it's a good punchy little number, good keyboards, good guitars, good vocals. Again, it's a catchy song. If you know my channel, which you do, I just like catchy music. And this was the very first Doors track that I actually got to like. But it's dropped down a little bit because maybe I played it too much. But yeah, Break On Through would be my number four.
Yeah, it's a great one, that one. And it's coming up on my list soon, that one.
All right, okay.
But my number three is from the album Soft Parade that came out in 1969. It's the song Touch Me.
All right.
It's a very catchy and song, and it's got a very amazing guitar riff. And I love the inclusion of the horns, especially with the saxophone towards the end of the song. It's got phenomenal orchestration, all around the song, and the song does get to me mainly probably because Jim Morrison was only 27 when he passed away.
Yeah.
He passed away a couple of years after the song came out, and it contains one of my favorite drumming parts of any Doors song. It's a Doors song that I can never get enough of.
I had that in my top five until the last moment, and then I changed it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was considered, but I had a look last night again, and there's a couple I took out, and unfortunately that was one of them. And I replaced it with this one. If I can find the album. Yeah. And at the time, it was their biggest hit single, and it is from Waiting for the Sun, and it is Hello, I Love You. The one problem I have with this is far too short. It's only a couple of minutes long, but I
Yeah.
think it is really, again, as just a really good single for the late 60s, or was this 1970? When was this? I'm not too sure. I think it was 69. But it wasn't the Doors version I first heard of this. Believe it or not, it was Adam Ant, because he recorded it for his Friend or Foe album in 1982, and I always thought it was a great song. But whenever I heard the Doors version, I thought it was even better. So, Hello, I Love You, which got to number 15 here, and it was their biggest hit at that time. So that's my number 3.
Well, we're in our top two now, and
Mhm.
my second favorite Doors songs for the Doors debut, and it's Break On Through to the Other Side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite album openers, and it's got my favorite Jim Morrison vocals as well, and it's got some of the best electric guitar playing here. Uh, great organ solo. I think it's one not enough people talk about. I find it quite an overlooked one. And the song has several meanings to it, which I appreciate. I love it when songs have that, when you can interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is also a Doors song that I wouldn't mind being a bit longer as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, love this one.
Yeah. No, excellent choice. As I say, I had it at the number 4. My number 2 is from Morrison Hotel again, and it's a song called Ship of Fools. Now, this is actually, I think, the song before Land Ho. It's the last song on side 1. And it's for exactly the same reasons as I had Land Ho. It's the keyboards, again, I absolutely love. It's like a little keyboard loop, which is great. There is a brilliant bass line at the very, very start of this, but again, this is such a catchy song. And whenever I was playing the CD, the one comes after the other, and I thought, there's 2 fantastic songs in a row, and I've never got fed up with them. So Ship of Fools is my number 2.
Well, my number two was one of my favorite album openers. This is one of my favorite album closers, and it's from LA Woman. It's Riders on the Storm. Yeah, it's my favorite song by the Doors. It's got this amazing rain effect in this song, and it reminds me of ELO's start to the concerto for a rainy day,
Mhm.
which came out in 1977. So maybe they got inspired from this Doors song, but the song's got an awesome vibe to it. Thanks to the instruments used, and it's very relaxing and fun song to listen to overall. And it's a long but satisfying song in my opinion. And the lyrics are quite dark at times, but I also find it quite interesting as well. It's one of my favorite album closers, like I said. And when I first heard this song, I knew it was my favorite song by the Doors.
Yeah, it's a very good song. It's very atmospheric, and I like the use of the storm uh, in the background. I think it's really,
Yeah.
really atmospheric. I think it's fantastic. Didn't quite make my number 5 or my top 5 because my number 1, and I know it's a boring choice, but I have to give it to Light My Fire. Now, I used to not like the long version of this, but now I've really come round to it. The big keyboard solo, I think, is excellent. It's just an iconic song, and it's been covered by
Yeah,
so many people. Like UB40 have even done a version of this. Amy Stewart was the first version I ever heard, which was a disco version in the late 70s, but it's really good. Will Young, who I'm not a fan of, did a cover of it. So it's been covered by everybody. It's just a classic 60s song, and I
yeah.
can't put it anywhere but number one. So
Fair enough.
we've gone through the Doors and the Kinks. Which one is your favorite? And if you were to mark the band of what you know at the moment out of 10, what
Ooh,
marks would you give them out of 10 for each band?
okay. Well, I'll start off with saying which band I prefer. And to me, I love both of these bands nearly as equally, but for me, it's the Kinks.
Okay.
My favorite of the two. I think it's because I just listen to their music more, and also they've been a bigger part of my life as well. And I think because a lot of the Doors songs have got the genre of blues, it's got a lot of blues music, and I'm not always in the mood to listen to that type of music.
Me too.
So for me, the Kinks, and I'll probably give them out of what I've heard, I'd probably give them maybe a 9 out of 10, and I'd
Yeah.
probably give the Doors an 8.5.
Well, you'll probably know what my favorite is by a long way. It's the Kinks. I love the Kinks, but I would still probably only give them an 8.5 out of 10 because there's some albums, especially in the 80s, that I don't think are very good. The period in the 70s for RCA between 1971 and 1975 are the ones that are overlooked, but they are really, really good albums. And you mentioned one yourself, Everybody's in Showbiz, which
Yeah,
is an excellent album. It's just their whole catalogue, it's not that consistent. They sort of slipped a little bit near the end. But they're such a fantastic band. Their 60s period, as I said, is brilliant, and you pick some fantastic singles. So I'd give them an 8.5. Now, with the Doors, I've only recently got into them, which means I can't really talk that much about them, because I've only heard, say, each album about 4 times. But as you pointed out, they are quite bluesy, and I am not a fan of the blues. But there's other stuff on the album which compensates for that. So I would give the Doors probably a 6.5 out of 10. I know that sounds very low, but I do think, they will grow on me a lot more. And I was going to do an album ranking of the Doors, and the way I normally do it is I put them all on a playlist, play them to work back and forward for a full week. And I started it and I couldn't listen to any more after the second day. The first going up and coming back, grand, I was enjoying it. But then when I had to play them all over again, I thought, oh no, I don't even want to hear this. So I cancelled that for the meantime. So I think it's a case of picking out an album here and there, playing it, and then making a few notes, and then doing it again, maybe in a couple of weeks' time,
yeah,
and making a few notes before I can actually do that. So the Kinks win. Ho-ho. So anyway, Adam, that was great fun. I enjoyed that.
yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
No
It's been a pleasure.
problem. And sure, have you anything coming up for your channel so I can let people know? By the way, subscribe to Adam's channel, What the Gym. I'll put a link below in the description so that you can subscribe. And any future videos coming up?
Well, I'm not really sure what music themed ones I've got coming up, but I might as well just say what sort of things I do on my channel.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
I'm part of the vinyl community, so I do all sorts of videos doing music, and I'm also a big movie lover as well. I review all sorts of movies, and I've recently reviewed the latest film in the in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, being the new Ant-Man movie, which I quite liked, and yeah, I've done a review on that. I also do quite a lot of YouTube shorts and live streams.
Mhm.
Richard's appeared in the chat on a few of my live streams, and I'd love to have you on one of my live streams at some point, Richard.
I need to get StreamYard or whatever it is because I don't have it. I've been asked before and I can't do it. I've only got Zoom, but I'm sure I'll. The problem is with the live streams happen in the evening, and I get ready for work because I work night shift. That's why I'm off all week this week. That's why I've been doing an awful lot of videos. But
I,
unless it's
I also want to say that before we did this video, I looked at the time for Northern Ireland. I thought it might be the time difference there,
no,
but no, it's not. No,
same.
yeah, we're both in the UK, so no time difference there.
Whatsoever.
I just thought I'd go ahead and mention that here.
Well, Again, thanks very much for coming on, Adam. It's been great to have you on this channel. As I say, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so that's me for now, folks, and I hope to have another video quite soon. All the best now. Bye-bye.
Ciao.